And joining us now, Joe Marino, NFL draft expert. What's up, Joe?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Joe, any truth to the rumor you're related to Dan?
You know, I get that all the time, but growing up in Western New York as a Bills fan in the 90s, that last name Marino didn't suit me well. So no, no relationship to Dan.
Up and coming battle rapper Don Marino. Actually, I like him as well. There it is.
No. No.
Where in Western New York did you grow up?
He was about to
Grand Island. Yeah, Grand Island there. Just, I guess, northwest of Buffalo. Yeah.
Oh, that's the boonies, man. That is the way boonies.
Joe, let me.
I thought he froze. I thought he froze. He's like, dog, these dudes playing around. Joe, let me ask you. I see the Bill stuff in the background. Let's dive into this situation. You know, Anthony Richardson. We was arguing about this guy a little bit too. You know, I think Anthony Richardson is getting the same effect when you look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen was played at Wyoming. You know, had a really strong arm, not really accurate. Needed some little polish to him. Anthony Richardson, is fast. He's big. He looks the part. I literally think off the strength of what Josh Allen has transformed into, that Anthony Richardson can put himself in the top 15 because teams are going to say, look, if I could get something like that, yeah. I'll take Anthony Richardson. What are your thoughts on him, or even possibly a Will Levis? Because I think he's another guy who kind of fits in that mold of great talent, great structure, but doesn't have, I would say, the polish yet.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen has helped prospects like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, both guys that have all the dynamic physical skill that you could be looking for in terms of size, arm talent. They can run. These guys are really gifted, and you feel like they have all the traits necessary to be a franchise quarterback, to be the reason why you win football games. But certainly rough around at the edges. And Anthony Richardson coming into the NFL with less than 400 career passing attempts in college. I mean, he's really under-repped and needs a lot of work. But I think a success story like a Josh Allen can warm up the idea of betting on those traits for some of these teams that, look, if you're in the AFC and you don't have a Mahomes or an Allen or a Burrow or a Herbert, you're really in a tough spot. And I think that the race to get these types of guys really does help their, what Josh Allen's been able to do in a success story there with a raw quarterback coming out of Wyoming.
Joe, I don't understand why Hendon Hooker don't get a lot of praise. I mean, this is a guy who I think he threw for 40-plus touchdowns. He only had a couple of interceptions on the season. He ran that air raid. Why is it strictly because of his age that teams are scared off of him? What is it? Because to me, I think he's literally the third best quarterback in the draft.
I enjoy watching Hendon Hooker. He's got really quiet feet, really smooth mechanics, his good size, athleticism, arm talent. There's a lot to like there, but I think there's three pretty challenging layers to the evaluation there that makes him difficult. I think you mentioned it's the age. He's 25 years old, and he just tore his ACL, right? A late season ACL tear. That's a 9 to 12-month recovery. So now you're looking at a situation where he's probably redshirting as a rookie, and you're not really going to see him take the field until he's 26 years old. On top of that, he does come from that Josh Heupel air raid spread tempo offense. It's a very extreme version of that. I mean, the spacing and tempo of that offense is not like anything we see in the NFL. And so there's a big curve and a big, way that he's going to have to translate his game to fit into what the NFL is going to ask him to do is pretty steep. And so I think when you layer all that together, the age, the injury, and the adjustment, you can see why maybe there's not quite as much draft value there as maybe the season he had this past year at Tennessee. Obviously did some really special stuff.
Joe, let's get to the Browns here. I'm curious your take on this, because we look at the Browns, we see that linebacker is still the biggest position of need. They don't have any picks in the first two rounds, but they have 2 third-rounders, 2 fourth-rounders, and 2 fifth-rounders. So I guess my question is, is there a linebacker you could see being available, maybe even in the middle or late second round, where the Browns could package a few of those third, fourth, fifth round picks, maybe a pick next year, whatever? Is there a guy you think that could be worth trading up for in mid-second round-ish that you think could start right away as a linebacker in the NFL?
I think there's a lot of teams that are looking for a true starting starting inside linebacker. Cleveland's certainly on that list. Pittsburgh, Buffalo, the Giants. There's a lot of teams out there that need that starting Mike linebacker. And I don't feel like this draft really has a great supply of them. There's two guys that I would feel comfortable saying I think will be good NFL starting Mike linebackers. It's Jack Campbell from Iowa. It's Drew Sanders from Arkansas. And I think the need that exists out there, we just went through a bunch of teams that need a starting Mike linebacker, and the scarcity of what's available really makes this difficult. And so if one of those guys were to get to the middle of the second round, I think that's when you have to start having that conversation so that you can fix that hole. And I think either one of those two players would make sense to move up to get. However, I still think Cleveland has needs at defensive tackle, edge, maybe wide receiver, maybe another running back. And so you have to foil that against the opportunity cost, because if you part with the assets that you have to go get this linebacker, you're still not going to be able to find, key pieces at other spots. So there's a lot to consider there. I know that there's some familiarity with, Anthony Walker and Sione Takitaki, Jacob Phillips, JOK. There's a lot of players there, but not that true downhill Mike linebacker for the middle of Jim Schwartz's defense. So it's a big need. I'm just afraid that there's not a whole lot of options, and certainly where the Browns are picking makes it even more difficult to land on a guy.
Joe, our next question comes from the YouTube chat. Whenever we ask a question from the chat, it's brought to us by PCC Airfoils. If you're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply at precast.com/careers to learn more. I scoured the web this morning, Joe, for mock drafts that go at least 3 rounds and found 5 different guys mocked to the Browns at number 74. Granted, it's impossible to mock 3 rounds out. You don't know what's going to happen. But of these 5 guys, Steve, you take the graphic full. Rashee Rice, the wide receiver from SMU. Brandon Joseph, the safety from Notre Dame. Tajay Spears, the running back from Tulane. Antonio Johnson, the safety from Texas A&M. And Devon Achane from A&M as well, the running back. Of those 5 guys, who would you like most for the Browns at number 74 if they're available?
Man, I wish I had some different options here, because there's not a whole lot that moves the needle for me. I mean, these are a bunch of little people. I want to see some D linemen here for the Browns. I want to see a linebacker. But I guess, man, this is tough. I'm pretty satisfied with what they have going on at safety, so these options don't really appeal to me.
Take a safety.
I don't get it. I don't understand these
are
picks
not
at
my
all.
mock drafts. Yeah. This is what the internet's telling me.
Surely you would never do that. I feel like the player there that provides a dynamic to this team that maybe is interesting to me is Devon Achane or Tajay Spears, where you can get a real speed complement to go with Nick Chubb, obviously Jerome Ford, right? The RB2 right now. You're looking for potentially an upgrade there. You want to make sure that Nick Chubb is fresh and complement him. And so I feel like the most meaningful thing that they could do is find that complement. And I could be convinced that Spears or Achane would make sense of these options, but I don't know that much of this really moves the needle for me.
There's 2 guys on Tennessee. We talked about Hendon Hooker. There's another guy, the edge rusher Young, and Jalen Hyatt at wide receiver. I think I fell in love with Jalen Hyatt just running past people. Like it's just mesmerizing. He's wide open. I don't know what route he ran, but he open. And then Young is another guy who is a little older. As an edge rusher, what are your thoughts on 2 of those guys and where they could fall?
Yeah, I love both of those players. I think those are really good Browns-type players for what I think they need. You start with Byron Young, the edge rusher from Tennessee. Really cool story where he was working in retail and winds up just putting out some videos for him and playing at smaller levels, right, at community college level. And the next thing you know, he's getting offers from all these Power 5 schools. He goes to Tennessee and really strings together a couple of nice seasons. And there's a lot of burst and bend and flexibility and a lot of variety with the way that he can beat blocks. And so had a chance to meet him at the Senior Bowl. I'm a big fan of who he is as a person. I think he'd be a great day 2 pick for the Cleveland Browns to add to what they have, of course, with Myles Garrett, a player that I'm very excited about them adding in Agbo Okoronkwo. I think you still need more at edge, and I think Byron Young would be a great way to add to it. You mentioned Jalen Hyatt. I mean, I think that he really fit well because I think what the comparisons are for him a lot are Will Fuller, a guy that we've seen Deshaun Watson have a lot of success throwing the football to. And, Jalen Hyatt, you mentioned he gets open a ton deep. I mean, that's that spread offense that we're talking about where the splits are just insanely wide. The spacing is insane. And that speed with that much stress in terms of the spacing that Tennessee puts on college defenses, these guys are all wide open all the time. And I think Jalen Hyatt proved that, he's got that ability to get behind secondaries. He's got really good ball skills and hands. a little bit of a slender build, but you're getting this guy for that speed dynamic, and that's obviously going to really impact the spacing of the field when you got a guy that can lift the roof of a defense, and that's going to open up things for a great route runner like Amari Cooper and, of course, David Njoku, Elijah Moore, a player I'm really excited about to see in Cleveland. So I think he's one of those math-changing type players where if you put him on the field, he commands respect, and I think that's going to open a lot for whatever team he heads to, but obviously envisioning him with Cleveland, that's pretty exciting to me.
Well, just a really quick follow-up. I don't foresee him being there in the third round. He's a guy I think somebody would draft in the second round or possibly overdraft him because of that right opportunity. Where do you have him kind of mocked to go?
Yeah, I think if he's going to go in the first round, I think the Chargers are kind of that team that needs that type of a skill set to improve their offensive spacing. But yeah, I think right there from the early 20s up till around pick 50, I think is the strike zone for a guy like Jalen Hyatt. You know, the NFL always loves speed, right? You can't teach it, and Jalen Hyatt certainly provides that in big playability. So I think he'll probably go in that range.
All right, let me talk to you about these DBs because I'm a former DB myself. It's the four corners, obviously. I think it's Devin Witherspoon, Gonzalez from Oregon, Banks, and Joey Porter Jr. Out of those four, who is your top guy? And then, obviously, they break these positions down separately now. Give me a slot corner because right now it's some riffraff in the Browns secondary of who's going to play nickel. So just the guy who you think could be there maybe in the third round that the Browns could potentially think about drafting for the play nickel.
I think my guy here is Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon in terms of my CB1, 32-inch arms, really dynamic athlete. Loved how he transitioned from Colorado to Oregon and really elevated his game. He showed ball skills in a big-time way this past year at Oregon. And so I think when you see young players like a Sauce Gardner and a Tariq Woolen last year and what they did in the NFL, and you have some physical characteristics that are pretty similar, I get really interested in a Christian Gonzalez type player. Now, when you mentioned that slot position and looking for one of those guys in the middle rounds, I got to point you to Travius Hodges Tomlinson out of TCU. I mean, he's a dog, right? He's not going to check the boxes in terms of size, but watch him play, man. He's sticky in coverage. He's willing to be physical and play off contact. And, you know, you're playing the slot. You're a little closer to the action there. You got to have some run fits and be able to blitz a little bit. And I certainly think he can provide those dynamics, you know, if Cleveland's not kind of satisfied with what they have in-house, and you know, certainly some versatility with their corners, but finding the right mix, I understand. And so if I'm looking for that mid-round slot, I'm looking at Travis Hodges Tomlinson from TCU.
Joe, how long have you been doing scouting?
Well, I started back.
I was going somewhere with that. That was a two-parter. Hold on. Give Joe 1 second to pop back in here.
Mikey jinxed it.
Yep. That's exactly what happened.
It was Earl.
The ghost of Earl again.
The ghost of Earl. Hold on. You guys take it up. I'm going to work with Joe to get this back up real quick.
Guys,
I do want to get there 1 second.
You know, Joe mentioned the Browns have a lot of things they want. Listen, I don't think, like, I would love to see the Browns take another wide receiver somewhere in this draft, and if they want to take another running back, that's fine. But I don't think either of those things at this point.
It's a linebacker.
I mean, linebacker is definitely the biggest need. Now, you don't want to force it if there's not a guy you don't like or trust.
No, I like Jack Campbell. Obviously, he was at Iowa, and I got to watch him go against the Buckeyes.
You think he's like a starter, definite starter, good player in the NFL?
Yeah, the only thing with him is that messed me up a little bit. The only thing with him is that it's his lateral movement and his speed is the two concerns. Because I literally watched his highlight tape like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Because everybody been talking about Jack Campbell linked to the Browns in the third round. So I was like, let me look at this guy.
Yeah.
Man, I remember watching him against the Browns. He does well in run fits and stuff like that. But I think if he goes up against, Kansas City and he has to be in pass coverage, a little bit concerns me a little bit there with the speed.
I mean, can anybody stay with Travis Kelce? Are there any linebackers?
Well, no, he wouldn't be. I'm talking about running backs.
Oh,
He'd be checking running back.
Yeah.
Middle linebacker ain't checking no tight end.
That's true. All right, fair enough.
You asking to get 50 put on you. But I was talking about as far as that. And then if he goes up against one of those speed backs, sometimes I just don't know about the angle. Now, I will say he does have great awareness. He's situational football is great.
Instincts are good.
And he does really well in pass coverage, like as far as like getting to his zone and dropping. It was against the freaking Buckeyes.
Yeah.
He read play action, took his steps up, got back into coverage, got his eyes on the quarterback, and picked C.J. Stroud also.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
So what he doesn't have in speed, he makes up for in instinct.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like for a linebacker, the instincts, because you can't teach the instincts.
No, you
either.
can't.
Like,
you cannot.
DeQuell's talked about this all the time. JOK just doesn't have the instincts as a linebacker.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have a guy who's less athletic.
He reminds me
and more
of
instinctual.
Joe Sherbert,
Yeah.
however you say it.
You know, you
He
got
was a solid player.
Yeah,
not great,
that's what I'm saying.
but,
He ain't he's solid, he's productive, but
Yeah.
you know.
you got guys coming. Jacob Phillips, torn pec.
Taki coming off injury.
Taki with his
All of them.
ACL.
ACL.
Anthony Walker.
Anthony
was hurt.
Walker, Anthony Walker tore his quad.
Yeah.
You know, JOK has been injured with a lot of different.
Yeah.
injuries.
Every linebacker on the roster's been hurt.
So, like, my thing is, I mean, are you? Who's the guy they brought in last year from Alabama off the street?
Deion
Oh,
Jones.
Reggie Ragland.
Reggie
Reggie
Ragland
Ragland,
actually
yeah.
played pretty decent. So maybe they like Reggie Ragland, but I mean,
Well, I don't
Anthony
think he's on,
Fields.
is he on the roster right now, Reggie Ragland?
I don't think so.
I don't think
Deion
so.
Jones is
Deion
not.
Jones is not on the
He's a free
roster.
agent right now.
Reggie, and then you got Anthony Fields. He was hurt last year.
I forgot about that guy.
So, like, you got all these guys who, like, and here's the thing about injuries. You don't get better while you injured.
No.
All you doing is coming back to get base level. You just trying to, like, I remember when.
You could become smarter. Like, you take that time
Yeah.
to study. Like, Anthony Walker's, he did something interesting. He's been spending time with the offense. So he's, like, been sitting in offensive meetings trying to learn their philosophy and what they're doing on offense to make him a better linebacker, which is smart by him. But at the end of the day, all you got to do is watch film and understand preparation. You get certain formations, it tells you the story. You find out what that offensive coordinator likes to do. You figure out what situation it is, because that's all football is, it's situational football. On tape, they've already shown you against your scheme on 2nd and 7, these is the plays that they typically run on 2nd and 7. You remember those plays, you look at the formation, you see what they're doing, and boom, you got a great idea of what's coming.
The great thing
And
about
I just broke down football for y'all right there.
But you also said earlier, it's all about lateral mobility as
It
well.
is.
So if Anthony Walker used to playing at a certain speed, right? If he come back and he's not able to play at that certain speed,
Right.
now, I know where the play is, but can you get there? And I think he's athletic enough that I don't think he should lose too much. But the problem is when you just trying to get back to, all right, am I able to play without, you know what I'm saying, taking a day off? Think about it. You implement a brand new defense, right? And all of your linebackers were at some point ended up injured for the rest of the year.
And it's not like they were that good to begin with.
And it was like you was struggling anyway.
Yeah.
So now when you go to practice and camp, you automatically know they're gonna be on the side half the time.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be chilling and being playing every single day. So I guess the tough part is implementing the defense. You're going to have guys on limited reps because they're not going to play every single day.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to try to keep them healthy to get to a point where you can make it to the season. So that sets you up for a little bit of, we didn't practice together. We need cohesiveness. We had a couple busts here or there because guys is moving. We ain't got no time for that this year. I need my guys to be available. So give me a linebacker that could play and show up to practice every single day and get reps.
Well, I mean, that's a position where there's no more veterans to sign. I mean, any veterans in free agency at linebacker are bottom of the barrel guys at this point. So you're relying on the guys you have now, which are not particularly good, and you probably add a rookie, maybe two. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted two linebackers, but they haven't had a lot of luck drafting linebackers. They haven't done really well with that.
The thing is, it's going to come down to they have to use the strength. The strength is that their D-line should be significantly better, and their secondary was always a strength. Those linebackers, Jim Schwartz is going to run 3-and-1 a lot. Like, that's just –
Explain that for the
So
folks who don't know.
cover 3 is 3 deep. You got a post safety, the corner, and both corners has got a third of the field. The post safety got the third, and you got your linebackers either playing a buzz or a hook drop, and you got your other safety, either he's a buzz or a hooker, depending on what the scheme is. And then cover 1 is you got 1 post safety, everybody else is in man across the board. So the reason that they do that is because it's the same shell. So if a quarterback comes out and he sees 1 high, he doesn't know if you're in 3 or 1, but he assumes that you in 3 or 1. He won't know until, unless he motions somebody and somebody goes with him, he'll know, okay, it's man. Nobody goes and they just bump, it's 3. That's a way to know, or he'll know post snap, looking at the post, or looking at the down safety. Anyways, the reason I bring that up is because these guys have to be good in coverage. If we're going to stop the run, if Jim Schwartz going to come in here and they're going to get these D tackles to plug up the run, these guys got to be good in dropping in coverage. And it's hard to take those drops. Like coming off of injuries like that, I just talked about how Jack Campbell, he read play action, then got back.
Right.
If you coming off of a leg injury and they run play action, you bit it,
Done.
it's hard for you to put that foot in the ground, especially if the knee is not all the way where it needs to be. Turn around and try to sprint 12 yards back to get to your hook drop to stop the dig or something coming across. So I think that's why you need to at least have some healthy bodies in there. But ultimately, it's going to come down to that pass rush. They're going to have to cover up for these linebackers if they get big on play.
And like JOK to me, he's like a blitzing back.
I will continue to stand on the fact that JOK is a Sam linebacker, meaning that he is not in the box. He is outside of the box where the quote-unquote nickel would be. So if they run base defense, he needs to be at Sam where he's to the field because he's athletic enough to cover up the field. If they throw to the field flats, he's athletic enough to get there. If they throw a 7 route and he's a buzzer, he's able to flip his hips and get underneath that 7 cut. And his best asset to me is blitzing, which comes a lot from the Sam back.
But does he have the instinct to read it quick enough?
If he reads pass, that's his responsibility.
If
you're a defender in coverage, you always defend high to low.
They got him out here in the wheel.
They keep putting him in the box, and
I'm like, he out here getting absorbed.
Well, hopefully Jim Schwartz
like that box thing. You gotta.
Are you confident that Schwartz is going to put him in a better position?
I hope. It's his job too.
Yeah.
Like it's because you can't. I'm not with DeQuail on it. DeQuail is just completely.
See, that's what happens when you play two of a high good. When you play at a high enough level, you be trying to get everybody up out of here.
DeQuail
like you ain't good.
DeQuail we just need to cut him. I'm not saying cut him. I'm saying put him in a better position to succeed. We tried to experiment him in the box. It's not for him. You have to have great instincts, you got to have good lateral quickness, and then ultimately you got to be able to get off blocks, which he struggled with all 3 of those.
He's not as big as Tyvis.
That's what I'm saying. So we got to put this man in position to win, and that's put him outside. So if he's outside and he's at the Sam and the run comes to him, his responsibility is to turn it back. All he has to do is leverage the defense.
I would think with Anthony Walker being back that he would be anyway, right? I mean,
no, because he was playing Will with Anthony Walker. Anthony was playing Mike. And JOK was playing with, and Taki was playing Sam. Yeah. And I said that I don't think that's right.
Well, can Taki?
He played Mike, and he had this best part of his season was at Mike. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what they do. Mikey, what's up?